All right, guys, welcome back. That was our review of the East region. Now we're going to move on to the South. First matchup, the number 1 seed Duke Blue Devils take on the winner of North Florida and Robert Morris. First off, Scott, who's going to win the 16 seed play-in game?
I'd say North Florida Ospreys.
Why?
I mean, they're a better team than the team we root for, Northern Kentucky Norse. So
Norse up, hashtag.
Yeah.
Say hashtag first. All right, so in the 1-16 matchup, I'm going to go with Duke moving on, unfortunately, but I don't think they're going to lose to a 16 seed. Karl?
I just want to say that Robert Morris beat Kentucky 2 years ago in the NIT in the first round. I really like the Ospreys because in College Hoops 2K7 they were my very first team in a limited dynasty. And they won the national championship, so I want to keep anything alive here because they have won a championship in my video game past.
So we're going with Duke, right, Scott?
Yes.
Okay.
Unfortunately.
I know.
I want to underline that.
That brings us to the 8-9 matchup. San Diego State Aztecs?
Yeah.
Cool. Versus St. John's Red Storm. Karl, what do you know about the Storm?
I can tell you that their main guy down low, Abepka, was recently suspended for 2 weeks by the head coach for rules violations against the team. So he's not going to be down low. He's a huge shot blocker. They still got the other guy, Sir something Pointer. He gets about 3 blocks a game also, but those two combined, they're really hard to go down low. So I'm going to go with San Diego State here, just for the lack of defensive firepower for St. John's.
I like everything Karl said there, so I'm going to agree with him. Go with San Diego State. Scott, you got any reason that we should?
A convincing argument.
Yeah, see, that's what I thought too. SDSU, moving on. Which brings us to our 5-12 matchup. The Utah Utes taking on Stephen F. Austin. The Jacks last year took on VCU in the first round and pulled off the upset. This year, the teams are similarly matched. Let's see, it says here, though, that Utah has lost 4 of their last 7, although they are top of Division I for defensive scoring, and they shoot the ball pretty well for making most of their own possessions. Meanwhile, Stephen F. Austin, while considered an offensive machine that's tremendous on the glass, they tend to give up a few points, but another note, they did lose to Xavier by 18 points. I just wanted you to know that.
Yeah, it was early on in the season.
How early, Karl?
The Lumberjacks?
Yeah, that game we just talked about, 14 seconds.
They were, I was a little bit worried. It was actually a tight game to begin with, and then they ended up pulling it up.
I actually think Utah's a better team. The BPI is 12, just higher than the 53 for Stephen F. Austin. I do kind of like the upset, but I'm going to go with Utah. Karl?
My friend Jessica wants me to let everybody know that we should go for at least 112 over 5 in every bracket. However, we're going to have UB over West Virginia, and I wanted to do Wofford over Arkansas, but I guess we'll do Utah here. What do you got? Any thoughts?
I was going to go at Stephen F. Austin.
Oh, really? Whoa. Why would you?
U3.
Maybe you can. I'm not setting stone.
U2.
I could be convinced too.
I just think think Utah is a strong enough team to withstand the power of a 12 seed.
Power of 12 seed. Karl, was your
My mind was not changed.
Utah moving on. Don't be a lawyer, Scott. Just throw that out there. Karl, what can you tell me about Georgetown?
I can tell you that Georgetown has 10 losses in the season, with 3 of them coming to Xavier.
That's kind of a fuck you, isn't it? All right. Scott, tell these people something about Eastern Washington that they don't know, which could really be anything.
They have the leading scorer in the nation, Tyler Harvey. Came out of nowhere, transferred in. He's took over the basketball team, took them to new heights.
Do we know where he transferred in from?
No.
Okay.
And he's led the team to 2nd in points per game in the nation. So I think they're going to pull out the upset against Georgetown, just because they can score and they can run up and down the court. They're fast, I would say.
They're fast.
As our Big East guy, do you think this is possible?
Geez, I like Georgetown. They always seem to get bounced out early. Lately, it seems like with the whole Florida Gulf Coast, and last year I felt like they got bounced out early too. I think this year they're going to get out tonight, and they're going to get out of the first round this year.
I too have Georgetown getting out of the first round. While you made a much better argument for Eastern Washington than Stephen F. Austin, it wasn't quite enough. I think Georgetown will move on this round. I'm not so sure about the next round. So Georgetown moving on, which brings us to the 6-11 matchup of SMU UCLA. Karl, I heard you took special interest in this game.
I did. I was really
thoughts?
interested in this this Mustangs. If you could just bring the camera this way. How you doing? Well, SMU won the AAC conference, which is the American versus UConn. But if you look at their resume, they were 15-3 in the AAC, 3-5 versus current tournament teams. Their best wins: twice over Tulsa, 3 against Temple. That's not much of a resume. However, they are in the top 25 Associated Press. Is that top 25 Associated? AP top 25, I believe it was. UCLA on the other hand, 4-8 against current tournament teams. Both of them have won. They have one mutual opponent over the course of the season. Gonzaga, UCLA lost by 13. The other team, Southern Methodist, lost by 16. And here's a little fun fact that has nothing to do with anything. UCLA lost to Kentucky 83-44 earlier in the season. Wow. That's 39 points.
That was Karl's Corner, everybody. I'm going to go with SMU based on all the facts. I think they have a good chance at just demolishing UCLA. I don't really think UCLA should have got in personally. But I'm not a doctor. Scott, what do you got?
UCLA was one of the last teams to get in on this bracket. I don't think they really deserve to be here either, so I think SMU's going to pull it out.
SMU, moving on. That brings us to the 3-14 matchup. Iowa State taking on UAB Blazers. UAB is in here with a 19-15 record. Yeesh. Iowa State's coming off of their conference tournament victory. All of the intangibles basically say Iowa State is significantly better than UAB. I'm not even going to bore you with how they're really good. Fuck it. I'm going to go with ISU because there's just UAB's not winning this game. I'm sorry.
I'm going with you.
Pretty good argument.
This brings us to our next matchup: Iowa versus Davidson. I believe somebody has some notes on that game somewhere.
Scott, what you got for us?
Davidson is currently 4th in points per game in the country and 7th in 3-point. So I don't know how fast they are, but they also beat VCU earlier in the season, and VCU is sitting at a 7th seed in this tournament. So it shows that they have a record of beating some good teams. And Iowa, on the other hand, has lost to Penn State in their conference tourney. So I think Davidson is really going to pull out the upset here and move on.
All right, I actually was going to pick Davies as an upset too. I just don't really have a good feeling about Iowa. Call it gut instinct. Karl, who are you going to go with?
I was going to go Davidson also. I was actually, not knowing where Xavier was going to be seated, I was actually really terrified of them playing Davidson because I think they're a pretty legit team this year.
All right, good. That brings us to our 2-15 matchup, the Gonzaga Bulldogs. I always want to call them the Zags. Versus the North Dakota State Bison, who made some waves recently in the tournament. Karl, why don't you tell us about that?
Well, I can tell you that none of it matters because they have a rookie head coach this year.
Where did the former head coach go?
He got the boot, or he died. But this new head coach is 36 years old.
Perhaps he died.
He's like the 4th youngest coach in the NCAA currently.
No shit.
And can't make this stuff up. But,
Gonzaga's, of course, been a top team all year. I don't really think they're going to beat or lose to a 15 seed. Yeah, said that right. And Scott, you got anything good?
No, I got nothing. I think Gonzaga's going to win.
Yeah, that's kind of how we all feel, right?
Yep.
Yeah, Gonzaga moving on. Gonzaga. What? Ghosts are here. Okay, so that brings us to the next round.
5th annual selection show brought to you by Ghosts.
Duke taking on San Diego State. I don't think that this is the game that Duke loses. I think they're going to walk all over San Diego State. Karl, can you tell me something different?
I am deathly terrified that when I watch this in post that there are going to be floating orbs around it. And I wish one take Duke so we can move on.
Duke, moving on. Scott's here too. So Scott, why don't you tell us about Utah versus Georgetown? How do you feel about it?
Well, I picked neither of these teams to go forward, so I don't really feel good about this matchup. I think Georgetown has more experience than Utah just in their coaching staff and years past. I think Georgetown's going to pull it out.
I'm going to take the coaching staff is one of the reasons that I'm going to take Utah here. I think their coaching staff has a history of making just horrible decisions when it matters, and that's why they tend to lose games like this. Both teams have pretty good D. Utah's a little bit better. I think I'm going to take Utah in a mild upset here. Karl, break this tie.
I am also going to go with Utah.
Good.
Okay.
This is also known as the Fuck Scott bracket. How's it feel?
I got no stats to back me up this time.
That's right.
No back, bro.
Southern Methodist University Mustangs versus the Iowa State Cyclones. Iowa State won the Big 12. SMU won the AAC, American. I like the Cyclones here. This should be a cut and dry. I'm thinking 20-point victory here.
See, I'm going to go the other way. I think SMU is going to pull out the slight upset here. I think Iowa State's a little bit tired from their whirlwind victory in the conference tournament, and everybody always tends to make a big deal about conference tournament victories, but they don't tend to, correlate into actual tournament victories. So, unless you're Kentucky, anyway, I'm going to go with SMU for the upset over Iowa State. I like the Cyclones, but I think that maybe they'll just look a little too far past Southern Methodist, and they'll catch them. Scott, break this tie.
I was going to go Iowa State.
Good point.
I don't think it's the right place to pick an upset.
I understand the fuck you, Scott part of the program now. On our last matchup is Davidson versus Gonzaga. Scott, why don't you lead us off here?
I just like the way Davidson plays. They're fast. And
Wait, I thought you said you didn't know how fast they were. When
I checked my references,
Okay.
and they said they're fast. Hashtag fast. And I think they might pull out the upset right here. This will be a good game for an upset.
Okay, Karl, how do you feel? Same as Scott.
I mean, see, the problem is here is that the conference tournament line, which I know you don't put much stock in, Gonzaga lost to BYU, which is
Fast.
very fast, the number one fastest
High
team in the
scoring.
country. So if you're telling me Davidson is the number 4, I think maybe Gonzaga could have some issues with the tempo of the game. That being said, they have only lost 2 games all year.
So wouldn't you say they're due?
Well, they just lost, so I don't think they're very
Yeah.
due if they just lost. I'm going to go with Gonzaga, and then I'm going to make you make a decision.
I'm going to take Davidson because I'm going to turn this fuck Scott bracket into a fuck Karl bracket. But jokes aside, I actually think they have a shot. Plus, you kind of talked me into it with the whole speed point with BYU. Like, you basically...
No, I just want to make all the facts
Was a valid
clear.
argument.
Like, you
Correlating.
made such a better argument against yourself than Scott made for
I just
himself.
present the facts, you can interpret them as you will.
Mhm.
Okay, so speaking of facts, the fact is that we have Duke playing Utah. Karl, make another great argument here. Who wins?
I like the Utes here. I do.
Okay. See, the reason I asked you is because I was going to say that. It's so true. I say person. You look great today. However, since I'm kind of wavering, Scott, why don't you tell me why I shouldn't pick Utah and maybe pick Duke?
I just hate Duke so much.
Are you crying?
And
It's okay, man.
no, they always get the top seed in their bracket, and they always have such an easy path. And I think they have an easy path once again because I think Utah is not that strong. I'm going to say Duke. Yeah.
Boy. Scott made a pretty good argument there. And as a top,
All the time was they have an easy path. How is that an argument?
no, I'm going to go with Karl here and say Utah.
Go
Just
Utes.
that.
The love of everything, holy.
Fuck Duke. So that leaves ISU versus Davidson. One of you guys take this. I don't know what to do with this.
Cinderella shoe always falls off eventually. I'm going with ISU.
Scott?
I'm going to ride the Davidson train all the way to
God, it's the opposite of what I was going to say. When it comes down to it, I really think that ISU is the better team. I'm not sure how they should feel with their whole... That makes sense in my own head. This is tough for me, as you can see. I'm tripping over my words. I'm going to go with ISU to move on to face Utah to go to the Final Four.
It had to be done.
Where I'm going to take ISU to go to the Final Four then and defeat Utah. You guys can figure out which team we're going to go decide on.
Yeah, no, I feel very comfortable with ISU. It's my favorite team out of the bracket. I think that they're going to... Then again, last year I said did the same exact thing. I had ISU going to the Final Four, and I think they got bounced in the second round or something. But
Doesn't mean they can't do it this year.
I know, you get burned by somebody and it hurts. But I'm gonna take the Cyclones again.
Everybody hurts sometimes.
All right, we'll be back with our final 4 matchups in just a moment.
Stick around.